20th century, hundreds of different kinds of animals have disappeared from the wild. This is the story of one of them. It is extraordinary how sometimes, in continents thousands of miles apart, evolution creates animals which are very similar. So it was with the bush wrens of New Zealand. They lived in the temperate forests and scrubland of the North and South Island, and on some of the small remote islands around the coast. Yet the bush wrens looked and behaved so much like this common European wren, it is hard to believe they weren't related at all and were separated by more than 16,000 kilometers. One principal difference was that the bush wrens lived on the ground, feeding on insects and small grubs. Their wings were weak and they flew as little as possible. Instead, these tiny birds, usually no more than 8 centimeters in length, had long legs, which meant they could bob and dart along the ground like feathered mice. Naturally enough, they nested close to the ground in hollows or low logs, so they wouldn't have to fly too far. Once they were called long-legged warblers, as the song of the bush wren was similar to the subdued trills and faint rasping sounds made by warblers. There were 3 kinds of bush wren. The first recorded sighting of any of them was probably a specimen of the South Island subspecies. It was seen by J.R. Forster, chief naturalist on the second voyage of the famous explorer Captain Cook. His son did a painting of the bird as their ships were being refitted in Dusky Sound. The North Island subspecies wasn't recorded for another 75 years, when in 1850 another British captain brought home the only 2 bush wrens ever to be caught. Like the descriptions of their South Island cousins, these birds were basically olive in color with a white streak above the eyes. The third subspecies, Stead's bush wren, was only identified in 1936, but by that time they were all under threat. The Stephen Island wren, a close relative of the bush wrens, offered a warning, had anyone had the foresight to realize. In 1894, a lighthouse was built on the small Stephen Island where the little wren lived. It was the first time humans had encountered the bird, and it was by their actions that it was wiped out in the same year. The wren had lost the ability to fly, and the island was not big enough for a large population. A single predator could do a lot of damage to a small number of flightless birds. The lighthouse keeper's pet cat killed every last wren on the island. Much the same thing happened to the bush wrens, only it took more than a single cat. European black rats and other animals were introduced, including rabbits, which multiplied so fast foxes were brought in to control them. Unfortunately, the foxes killed more than just the rabbits. Then came the stoats, the most deadly threat to the ground-nesting birds and their eggs. Finally, humans chopped down the forest where the bush wrens lived in order to graze cattle and to grow crops. By 1955, the first of the 3 New Zealand bush wrens vanished forever, and the South Island subspecies followed in 1968. The Stead bush wren was the last to disappear when the rats reached its final outpost on Kaimohu Island in 1977.